With the conclusion of an initial and foundational chapter, as is tradition with storytelling that runs by the chapter model, a never entry should not only succeed the original story, but build off of it in a forward evolution. And as it concerns Ad Infinitum, the bedrock foundation that is Chapter 1 Monarchy, which in my opinion was laid expertly by the group, is yet another testament as to why I'm in a real love affair right now of European music. I've said it many times on this channel, maybe some of you are new, so you're coming at this being like, I've never really heard your spiel on European talent within the music scene. I am generally, like I said, I think other music markets can fittingly be envious with the talent that I found in that realm of the world. And that's not to overshadow other talents perhaps that are on my playlist, in fact, based in other countries. Let's say, for example, America. Many groups of which have been longtime favorites of mine, and many have been spotlighted on this channel before, and at some point will be. I have many groups to roll around in concentration to, although that it's hard to do since I'm in such a love affair right now with Europe and their music library, especially within the metal scene. But I've just become so happy and content with what I found in that realm of the world, and I have for a long time. I've been a follower of European music for many years, and I'm always open to finding new artists and new talent that I haven't come across yet. And with Ad Infinitum, I think those steps were eventual. I do. I explained before when I initially covered Chapter 1 Monarchy that the gateway to this was through another European artist, as is in a lot of cases with groups I'm exploring. It tends to be one group that I find at some matter of time that maybe does a collaboration or has some sort of association of another artist where I'm like, oh hey, I get to learn about another name, let's check them out. That's what it's been for a lot of talent, including Ad Infinitum, specifically with their front singer Melissa Bonney, through Mortimia. Some of you might know that name. I've covered a lot of his works on this channel. I have a couple more I gotta do, but he's a Norwegian one-man symphonic gothic metal artist heralding from Sirenia. Really talented artist. I've raved about him so many times. But I love the model he has with his music where he brings in a collaborative artist. It's always been a female singer from another staple talent within the European realm, of whatever country that might be specifically. And Melissa Bonney was the featured artist guest as of track 5, I believe, Devastation Bound, and it is my favorite off the Pandemic Pandemonium sessions. It is a beautiful number. I mean, the structure, again, of a tune, I've raved about it so many times, is just amazing. But Melissa Bonney's vocals as well teased a very high qualified talent within the European vocalist scene. So much so that I did something, as I've explained before, that I did something with Ad Infinitum I don't normally do, in purchasing all of their albums outright on that tease. But I had faith, and I was so impressed in covering the first 4 singles released for Chapter 1 Monarchy on this channel, and as promised, at this point I've listened to the entirety of the album. It is a fascination in itself. It is a beautiful piece of symphonic metal. I am absolutely elated with it. Even beyond the 4 singles that I've covered, I have some... I mean, every track on that album is great. The comments I've seen expressing as much from other Ad Infinitum listeners, you're right, 100%. I would say definitely the tracks of focus, so not only the singles for me, but also track 3, Maleficent, and then track 5, I Am the Storm, which I understand from my recent research of them to get a better perspective on their group and their foundation. That was a opening pitch for them, I guess, to evolve their vision forward as a band, and that track really does set a good baseline, in my opinion. No wonder they evolved from that. It's a beautiful piece. And I've loved Chapter 1 Monarchy. At this point, I've given it several re-listens in its entirety. But there's more music that they've released since. Going back on Chapter 1 Monarchy was rolling back time, so to speak, because I came on them at least, a couple years later. But at this point, we have subsequent chapters. We don't have to wait too long in any way. There's been some that have released or in the process, in the case of Chapter 3, are in the process of releasing because they're in the pre-order stage right now. But we're now on to Chapter 2. So like I said, one chapter concludes, another one opens. And I've been highly ready to jump back on this journey. I had so much fun initially jumping in with Ad Infinitum, and I cannot wait to expand the vision forward of their talents. And as I understand, this track we're about to look at has also fared very well. But just the group in itself of their music, again with Chapter 1 Monarchy, it's such a dense piece. I mean, the music side, the vocals, Melissa Bonney too, her range, even in the context of, let's say, Marching on Versailles, her screaming vocals, didn't expect that at all, but it was beautiful. I hope we get to see more of that in this album. There were a couple tracks that employed that element, and I was very happy with that. But I'm really excited to be listening to them again. And even, going beyond that as well. I'm interested to see perhaps the storyline of Ad Infinitum. I'm still trying to best brush up on it, but understanding just the dimension to this group, and not only their music and Melissa Bonney's vocal talents, but also in the piece's structure from a narrative standpoint. It's kind of similar by comparison to maybe other groups that maybe you've heard the term, if you're a metal fan, conceptual, or maybe just in music in general, there's a conceptual album release or something like that. There's plenty I've listened to, especially within the American landscape, that have followed this as of late. Five Finger Death Punch, for example, I'm thinking one specifically of in like the rock metal scene. Five Finger Death Punch did something akin to that. They've advertised as such. Maybe let's say ones that are more primarily focused on a conceptual vision. Shinedown did that with Planet Zero. Demon Hunter, a big favorite of mine, I did that with Exile, and Starset as well with their album that came out in 2021, Horizons. About the same similar time frame of release as this album, from my understanding, in terms of a year. But I'd say it's very similar from what I'm seeing of Ad Infinitum and that conceptual vision, that there's sort of like this other story being told within the entire context of the work, although theirs is centered around European history, which admittedly I need to brush up on. I'm a little more knowledgeable of American history, obviously, but I appreciate, even as somebody maybe who doesn't have all his facts straight in European storytelling, or in history and storytelling of these pieces, the dimension I appreciate, and the uniqueness in character of the art with Ad Infinitum. That's something I'm always looking for with talents that are perhaps, again, lesser known in my circles. And that's how I judge the familiarity, especially in America when it concerns European talent, of artists I listen to. And I like coming across talents as well, that nobody... I mean, perhaps admittedly it does put me in more of an isolated space, but, I appreciate coming across artists that are lesser known in my circles, because it gives me talent to boast about. And it also gives me a feeling of like, hey, I've tracked down the real artists, perhaps in other places where I felt... artistry maybe has gotten a bit stale. Again, not to overshadow other artists in specific focus. I could maybe think of a couple. I've never been like, I've always gravitated towards the more alternative. There are some mainstream artists I like, but it's slim pickings. I appreciate the groups that are maybe less established in concentration, but yet are equally deserved of the focus that they get. And with Ad Infinitum, they deserve such a claim. I'm very impressed, again, like I said, as being a longtime metalhead, especially within symphonic metal and of the European landscape. I'm highly in favor of what I found with Ad Infinitum, and I'm happy to have come across them. But let's go ahead and expand, perhaps our experiences. Maybe you're somebody like me who hasn't had the pleasure of listening to all of Ad Infinitum's work, and you're embarking on this journey with me and looking for perhaps talents yourself. We're going to start with Unstoppable off of Chapter 2, Legacy. I'm interested, again, to see maybe going forward, on the research that I can do, perhaps how this expands the vision of telling European, or more specifically, I think they said in specific focus French history. I think that's what's been relayed to me. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cue up the music video. We can watch this together as well as get a perspective on the piece. And for those of you who perhaps have not come across my music reactions before and you don't know how I format these, I try and provide every accommodation possible to suit audience taste. So if you're somebody who likes to read along with a message perhaps in this piece, and the narrative through the lyrics, I will have those superimposed in the bottom part of the video, and they'll track along with the piece as we proceed forward. Alright, without further ado, Unstoppable. I'm going to cue it up and we can expand our knowledge base with Ad Infinitum. But I'm so happy with this group, I can't wait to listen to more. Strong opener. Not even a breath to get us in the mood. It's just right from the get-go. I appreciate it. Just like Marching on Versailles, it's a strong opening entry. Beautiful vocals. I'm really appreciating the symphonic edge here. The song's just bedazzling. Great. I like the motivational, inspirational spirit with this piece. The structure of her vocals in these verse sections is just great. I really appreciate the flow here. It's a great drive in those choruses. It's a great personality to blend with that line specifically. Like I was saying, I was hoping for some more aggressive screaming, and we get it. It's in the background, but again, it's a great compliment. I noticed they reduced the, see, I love the elements here with the song. It's just such a good mixture. So varied in its scope. I really appreciate it. As I was saying, it looks like they reduced the max size, too. I guess it's a little more convenient. Although the aesthetic off the last album was great. Can I say as well the production quality of this video, from the staging, the performance, the box constructs, it's such a... It's just beautiful. And then, of course, the pyrotechnics. Just... this video, I think, is one of my favorites from them. There's a beautiful display. It's a solid land. I really can't wait to hear how the album progresses from this. In the next case, we're going to be looking at the track that follows immediately, and that's going to be Inferno. That's a beautiful entryway, though, just like Marching on Versailles. Different key, a lot of other varied structures to the piece as well. That guitar section with the more electronic side to it, again, wonderful blend. And you know, I've spoken before as well, as it pertains to a mixture of elements, right? There has to be that through line among groups, especially when it comes to electronic music. I'm not always, and I've covered exceptions, and I've in fact regarded sections perhaps I haven't given attention to in this channel yet. Maybe it's because there's been no music new from them from what I haven't listened to on my own. But I'm very selective in my taste when it comes to electronic employment, because for me, I'm not as much of like an EDM guy, but when it's blended with, I'd say, more of a musical vision and a through line that isn't too frenetic or disruptive, it works for me. That was a great build off of a wonderful riff basis in the way the track was introduced. And right from the get-go, the energy, it's like, okay, we're going fierce, we're going all-powerful, we're not taking a breath of air. It was very much like March on Versailles, but that one definitely felt a little more incremental. This was like, okay, we're just launching right in. And it's a great... well, it's some of the initial track, actually. It's coming off of... what's the first one? Let me see. Reinvented. That's a great name. It's like we're definitely switching visions here. It feels like a switching of gears, but it still feels so consistent with where Ad Infinitum was in the beginning with Chapter 1. That's a great follow-up, and again, a wonderful introduction going forward. And in context like the singles, it really feels like, okay, we're revamping. It's a beautiful piece. I mean, again, the key that they picked, I loved watching the video. It's, I think, again, like I said, my favorite set construction from them. And I love how impassioned Melissa Bonney is in her performances. It really adds this feeling of enjoyment and passion that really helps you to what's the word I'm looking for? it helps you to really appreciate the craft at a deeper level of the artist and not let it just be a superficial experience. I'm like, oh yeah, I love the song, I love the tune. You really feel like you understand the artist's involvement with the piece, and you see that portrayed beautifully. And again, I appreciate the devotion to craft within the music scene. I've spoken many times before. I've wanted to bring music in a grander focus. And, as it pertains to the coming year, it will be that. That's definitely been an ambition on my heart for a long time. And there was, a time and season as I understood, but I'm grateful that the path is now at this point started on this channel because it is my favorite art form of choice. Even though I covered quite a broad range here, music for me has always been the one I've been closest to. And a song like this is very inspirational, not just as a metalhead in terms of new listens. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be an easy repeat listen. I'm sure the album will also follow that path as we give more listens to it. I'm sure that will evolve in this channel as well from that statement. But even the song in itself, those chorus sections are very well written. Again, maybe it is blended back to that historical perspective, but it is very realistic and inspirational, and it can be extracted into a more contemporary setting, and maybe one that is broad in its application. But that whole section, the way she explains it, I really like the wrap-up one, because the other two are similar with it, so I came back to life. But I guess we can make it more dramatic in terms of the final one. From hell I came back to life. Just such an ominous vision. But one more time I fought through the torments alone. Back from the abyss my power awakened. The flames of hell will have to wait. I love that line. And I kind of say this, as a Christian, when I read that, and I've made no secret about that on this channel in terms of my faith, I look at this and I'm like, even someone like me, I consider that quite inspirational. Because you could say in this case, maybe people interpret this differently. But, when I look at it, the flames of hell might be an allegory of death. Oh yeah, I see this as quite inspirational, Even perhaps if you're in a position where you maybe feel... I'm trying to keep it simple. I appreciate the poetry of the piece, though, again, how broad it can be applied. Maybe this is just one interpretation that I'm producing. But I appreciate an inspirational spirit that perhaps when you feel like you're in this place of death in your life, metaphorical or, well, not really physical, because you can't really... Well, you can certainly feel like you're living while you're dead, but you're not physically deceased. But the inspiration of moving forward and progressing towards a brighter future, a more hopeful vision of your life. And then saying, the flames of hell will have to wait. Death, flee from me. God willing that it works in that constraint. But I think it's quite beautiful. Again, like I said, I have a resonance with the piece. I do think in the way you could translate it and understand it perhaps in your life, and taking it maybe apart from the application of history. Not to say, again, that's the way in which to see it, because ideally you should be looking at it from the historical perspective. You're informed enough to understand the European history and that layer and how it integrates the pieces, because that was the envisioned takeaway as per the artist's vision. But perhaps, music, and this is part of what I love about it, is so broad to analyze, and it can be enjoyed in different fashions. So you look at a song like this, and maybe that narrative does speak to you in a more figurative but realistic manner. I think it's a beautiful piece, great lyrical construction, beautiful energy, very impassioned video, art. I think it's just wonderful to listen to. And again, it's a great testament to Ad Infinitum's talents and proceeding on a journey forward. It's a great launcher to a next chapter. We'll, of course, continue that vision with... how many tracks I look at for this album? Because I'm going by the music video releases, 4 in total, and this was the first, so 3 more. And then I'll be looking at chapter 3 as well, and what we have from it so far. What are your guys' thoughts of Ad Infinitum? I'd love to hear the angle you come from, whether you're perhaps a newbie listener and you've never heard them before, and this was a first introduction for you, maybe you're a longtime fan. I would love to hear your thoughts on Unstoppable, and as I understand, this is a track that should gauge a lot of perspectives, because I believe it is one of their most popular. It's one I've seen regarded in a lot of places, even though, again, this is my first, listen to it. I think it's a beautiful number. Again, it really speaks to the talent that I found in the European landscape, and I love adding Ad Infinitum to my playlist, as well as my focus on this channel and broadening perhaps other people's perspectives on talents that you might not have ever heard of before. And that has been an ambition of mine, in particular as it pertains to Europe, because again, the devotion I have and the romance I fell into with this area of the world and the craft I find out there, I love sharing with people who perhaps, again, like I've said, have that yearning, and you just haven't known where to look. I hope Ad Infinitum is that filler for you. Aside from, of course, many other talents as well, but I hope that Ad Infinitum, to one degree or another, suits your craving of what you've been looking for, because it certainly has mine. It's a beautiful piece, like I said, of Unstoppable, and I cannot wait to expand the vision more on this channel and my experience of Ad Infinitum through Legacy. But Chapter 2 is off to a great start in my opinion. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.